Welcome again, GEARUP families. Thank you so much for being here. Today we will be discussing the many opportunities in terms of financing college or post-secondary. We want to thank Allison Cotter, who is our colleague from Miracosta College. She's the Student Services Coordinator for the Financial Aid Office. Thank you, Allison, for being here with us and for giving us this wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So welcome everybody. Like Omar said, my name is Allison. I work at the Financial Aid Office over at Miracosta College. So I'm happy to be here tonight with you all. And what we're going to talk about is ways to pay for college. So this presentation that I have, it's a PowerPoint that I'm going to kind of go through, and then we will have time for Q&A at the end. If you have questions throughout the presentation, though, feel free to either put them in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, that's fine as well. We're kind of a small group, so we can really kind of do that more one-on-one conversational stuff. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And again, this is going to be sort of like a general high-level overview of what is available for students as they transition from high school to college, and things that they can do now in 9th or 10th or 11th or 12th grade. It's not going to be super in-depth about filling out the actual applications. We usually do those presentations when the students are in their senior year of high school. So this is more of just a high-level overview. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. And can you all see the presentation? Perfect. Okay. Okay, so when we say college, we're basically talking about any schooling beyond high school, right? So for some students, that might be transitioning right into a four-year university. For some, it might be starting at a two-year college, like a community college, like Miracosta. It can also include more vocational or specialized schooling for apprenticeships or vocational certificates. So there's many paths of education that a student may follow once they exit high school. And financial aid can help cover the costs at all of these types of institutions or types of colleges or schooling. It's going to vary from school to school and things like that, but it's a good idea to start thinking about what your student is going to do after high school and where they think their path might lead. So it's never too early to actually start planning for college. And then we know from data that the higher education that somebody can earn, the greater their earning potential is over time. So these are some statistics from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but not only does unemployment rate decrease with education outside of high school, but earning potential increases as well. So on average, a person with a four-year degree over their lifetime can earn over $1 million more than somebody who doesn't complete a high school program. So there is value in a degree, and it might be an investment of time and possibly money now, but will pay off further down the road. And currently, about 2/3 of job openings are requiring some sort of post-secondary or post-high school education or training. And so to get your student started on thinking about what they might want to do when they get to college, is to start having them think about their interests. So some of the steps you can take now to start planning, thinking about what subjects you like or what kind of career you might want to pursue. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go to school? Or do you want to stay local and maybe continue living at home? Do you want to potentially leave the state of California and maybe go to school out of state? Those are all things to consider. The cost will vary, right? If you're going from a community college or to a community college versus a private institution, versus an out-of-state school, those may have different costs along the way. So that's something that you can start looking into now and something to consider. And then we'll talk about scholarships a little bit towards the end of the presentation, but scholarships are a great way for high school students to start earning financial aid, because scholarships are a form of financial aid. And there's a ton of scholarships that are available for students in their, 9th, 10th, 11th grade year of high school. They don't have to wait until they're seniors in high school or freshmen in college to start applying for scholarships. And then I'll start, looking into financial aid opportunities there that are available. We'll cover some of those tonight. But about 2/3 of college students receive some sort of financial aid assistance. So there is something out there for most of the students that do go to college. And if they want to start preparing for college now, they can actually enroll in college courses while they're still in high school. It's not required, but it is an option for students. So we call that dual enrollment. So dual enrollment is basically while you're a full-time high school student, you may take a class at a local community college. So we have a lot of dual enrollment students at Miracosta who maybe take a summer course while they're on break from high school, or maybe during their regular high school semester, they take a course either online or in person at the college. And what it lets them do is to earn college credit while they're still in high school. So the class that they take can count for both high school credit and for college credit at the same time. So that may knock out a few requirements early on, and that may reduce, the amount of time that the student spends in college, and may, potentially reduce their bill, right? If they're taking a couple classes while they're still in high school. I believe the age is either 15 or 16 age requirement. And then of course the parents have to consent. So there's paperwork that you have to fill out with the admissions office to participate in this program, but it is something for students to consider. And the classes are free. So you don't pay tuition at Miracosta while you're still in high school. So it's a completely free class. And then I mentioned college costs. So that is something to think about as your student is transitioning from high school to college. So each college will have what they call a different cost of attendance, basically their price tag. So you can kind of see from the comparison chart here that community colleges have a much lower cost than, let's say, a Cal State versus a UC and then onto a private institution. And these are comprehensive for like tuition and enrollment fees, but they will also include other fees as well. So like room and board will be included in the cost of attendance. So if the student lives on campus versus off campus, that could make a difference in the price. If a student still lives at home while they're in school, that can be a savings, right? Because then they're not having to pay for, rent for an apartment or on-campus housing. Books and supplies, that's going to vary from school to school and even from major to major within the same school. So for example, if you are a STEM major, your cost of books and supplies might be much higher than somebody who is maybe a sociology or psychology major. We are seeing a big transition, especially now with COVID and everything going remote for so long, that a lot of schools and a lot of courses are transitioning to what we call zero cost textbook options, meaning instead of physically buying a textbook, like a hardcover textbook for your course, your professor may provide links to articles or PDF documents or things like that. And if they're utilizing those tools, then that can cut down the cost on some of the books and supplies and things like that. And then other living expenses. So anything else that the student needs to support themselves while they're going to school. This can include clothing or other expenses that the student might have along the way. And there's ways to save on all of these. I mentioned room and board. If you're living at home, that's going to be a savings. Transportation, if you take public transportation, that might be cheaper than commuting. If you're living on campus, then that might cut down on your transportation costs. So there's usually a variety of options that students have to cut down on some of these. So when you get your award letter or your offer from the college about what type of financial aid you're going to receive and what the cost is going to be, there is still some wiggle room within these different categories. And then how are you going to cover all those costs? So I did mention that about 2/3 of students receive some form of financial aid once they're in college. So financial aid is any money that you're using to pay for school. So it can come in a lot of forms. when a student fills out their financial aid application, that application is meant to be like a one-stop shop. You fill out your FAFSA or your DREAM Act application, and then you will be, offered the maximum amount of financial aid. So anything that has the word grant in it is going to be free money that doesn't have to be paid back. I'll give you in a couple slides a breakdown of all the different types of grants that are available. But anything with the word grant in the title is going to be free money that you don't have to pay back. Scholarships, also free money. Scholarships usually are based on merit or possibly some sort of community involvement, things like that. So their criteria may vary from scholarship to scholarship, but like I said, there's a lot of opportunities, especially for high school students, to start earning scholarships while they're in high school. And that way, when they enter college, they kind of come with all these scholarships with them. And we do see that in our office, where students who are, their first semester, they're like, hey, I have these 8 scholarships and I need to figure out how to get this money, because a lot of times the scholarships will send the money to the school and then the school turns it over to the student. So I'll talk a little bit about scholarships at the end again as well. Work study is another financial aid program that students can participate in. And this is really a great opportunity for students to get some work experience. They may already be working while they're in high school part-time, and that's fine. Work study, though, will give them a link to their campus. So especially if your student is going to be going out of state or out of the area, they're not going to know anybody. Participating in a work study program can get them connected with staff and faculty and other work study students on campus. So it's a great way to get acclimated to that college environment. The hours are usually super flexible with the student's school schedule, because school obviously is the priority. And they can work up to 20 hours a week. Usually on campus, but sometimes off campus, and possibly some remote, possibilities depending on what the position is. And currently, like for example, at Miracosta, currently it pays $15 an hour. So it's usually at or slightly above where the minimum wage is at the time. So that is a great option for students as well. And another big benefit to work study programs is it doesn't count as income for the student when they file their financial aid application the following year. Whereas if they worked at, Starbucks or something like that, that money would be counted as income and be reported on their financial aid application. The work study program does not count in that aspect. So that's another benefit to the student. And then loans are another option for folks. Loans you will definitely pay back, usually with interest. So you pay back more than you borrow. And it may take you a while to pay back the student loans, right? The average student loan plan is 10 years. That's kind of the standard plan that you get assigned after graduation. They do have plans that extend beyond that, but it is going to definitely be money that you do have to pay back. Now, if you can take advantage of as much of the free resources as possible, we obviously recommend that. But if you find yourself in a situation where you do need to take out a loan, we always recommend the federal loans, because they have the lowest interest rates and the most flexible payment plans. If you can avoid private loans, that would be the way to go.
And listen, do you mind if I interrupt?
No, not at
Families, I just wanted to let you know that federal work study is amazing. I was able to get some federal work study when I was at Miracosta as a student. And then I transferred to Casa San Marcos. And it just made a difference because I was, like Allison said, they worked with my schedule, and I was able to work at school. So I was able to spend a little bit more time at school, and it really helps out a lot as a student, that extra income.
Yeah, for sure. And it gives the students something that they can put on their resume, which they're going to need anyway after they graduate, because once they get their degree, they're going to start looking for a job. And so having that related work experience is going to go a lot further than something that might be, not related to your major or to what you want to do long term. Okay, so we want everybody to apply for financial aid because, like I said, there's probably something out there for everybody. When you apply is actually going to be when your student is a senior, you're going to apply in October of their senior year. The application will come out October 1st. So it's not something you would do now as a freshman or a sophomore or a junior, since you're not going to be in college. there's no point in taking the time to fill out the application. There is a financial aid forecaster, and I can provide the link at the end, where you can kind of estimate if you filled out your financial aid application now, what would you qualify for? But they're actually not going to really fill it out until October of their senior year of high school. And they will I'll go into detail about the two applications, but they either do the FAFSA or the California Dream Act application. You don't do both, you do one or the other. And the earlier that you apply, the better. There is a priority filing date of March 2nd. So between October 1st and March 2nd, that of their senior year, that's the sweet spot. That's when you want to have that application submitted. When it comes to financial aid, you do not want to miss out on deadlines. And you will see that even at especially at the four-year institutions, they are very strict on deadlines, and they might have their own institutional money that if you don't get your application in by this date, you missed out on that opportunity. So the earlier you can apply, the better. And so like I said, there's two types of financial aid applications. You only do one or the other. Nobody does both. The first one I'm going to talk about is FAFSA. So this is the free application for federal student aid. When you go onto the website, you want to make sure you're at the .gov website. That's the legitimate one. It looks just like this. So you'll know you're in the right spot. These are the requirements that the student has to meet in order to fill out the application. Okay, so the student has to be a US citizen or eligible non-citizen, which would be permanent resident or a naturalized citizen. They have to have a social security number, and they have to have high school completion. So either a diploma, a GED, or the equivalent, one of the high school exit exams is a requirement to get the state and federal financial aid. And for students who might not meet the US citizenship requirements, they can fill out the California Dream Act application to apply for state financial aid. And the requirement for this is that they've attended some combination of school in California for at least 3 years and also have that high school completion or the equivalent. And then this is what their website looks like. Again, you want to make sure you're going to the .gov website so you know you're in the right spot. When I started in financial aid many years ago, there were some scam websites like FAFSA.com, and it would charge you like $100 to apply. Financial aid is always free to apply for. So you should never pay a dime to apply for any type of financial aid. We are seeing a little bit of an increase in those fraudulent websites now with everything being remote and online. So just be aware and make sure you're going to the right spot. And then these are the documents that the student and the parents are going to need to fill out the application. Okay. So there is another presentation that I mentioned that we do in the fall for seniors and their parents. And that goes in depth of how to actually fill out the applications and into a little bit more detail about what's required. But in general, you're going to need parent and student social security numbers, income. So if the student is working, they may need to have their W-2, or if they filed their own taxes, have that information handy. And then assets, which include basically any bank account balances, so checking account, savings account, any investments or business income. It doesn't ask for like 401k or IRA, retirement account information. That is not reported as an asset on the application. But if you have like a college savings plan, like a 529 or a Coverdell college savings plans, then those would be considered assets and you would report those. I had that question come up in the last presentation, so I just wanted to make sure that I touched on it here. And even though your student is now, maybe 17, 18, 19 years old and off to college, they are still going to need parent information on these applications until they are 24 years old in most cases, which I know seems a little extreme, but that is the federal requirement for both the FAFSA and the Dream Act application. So just be prepared to fill this out with your student every single year that they're in college. So it's not just a one-time thing that they do their senior year of high school. Every year that they're in college, they will reapply for financial and will require parent information on the application. The only exceptions, excuse me, to not being required to provide parent info is if the student is married has children that they support, has served in the military, or meets one of like the more unique or specialized circumstances of being like emancipated or a ward of the court, things like that. So typically until they're 24, they're going to need parent information on the application. And then these are the different types of financial aid that you're applying for when you fill out that application. So I mentioned before that they're meant to be kind of like a one-stop shop, so you don't have to fill out a separate application for each grant. When you fill out the FAFSA or the CATA or the California Dream Act application, you'll essentially be reviewed for all of this eligibility. Okay. So there's several federal programs. Like I said, anything with the word grant in the title is going to be free money that you don't have to pay back. So there's, the federal Pell Grant, that's the largest and probably the most well-known out of all of the federal grants. But there are other grants available, grants for military service. I mentioned the work study program, that's a federal aid program. And of course, loans, which we talked about briefly. And then there's several state programs. So California does a really amazing job of providing state aid for students. So we have our Cal Grant program, which has that March 2nd priority filing date. It's not a hard deadline, like you could technically fill out your application after March 2nd, but you might be missing out on the chance to participate in the Cal Grant program. And that's a great program. It can actually cover tuition and fees at community colleges, 4 years, CSUs, UCs, private institutions. So if you are able to apply by March 2nd, it will definitely be to your benefit. And then there's other, the Student Success Completion Grant. That's an additional state grant that the student might get. The amounts are going to vary for these. So that's why I didn't list them here, because each individual student, their financial situation is different. So their eligibility is going to be different, right? So not everybody qualifies for the exact same thing. And then we have programs like the California College Promise Grant that can waive your tuition. There's programs for foster youth or former foster youth. There are separate state grants available for dreamers who fill out the Dream Act application. And then there's institutional programs as well. So within each school, they will have their own college, programs or money that they are able to award to students. So we have the Miracosta Promise, which offers 2 years of free college. We have our own scholarships. There's also private scholarships available that the student can have, transferred over to their school. Internships are another opportunity. If they weren't eligible to participate in work study, maybe they could get a paid or an unpaid internship to get some work experience while they're in college. And then at the CSUs, you'll see, the state university grant programs. At the UCs, it's the Blue and Gold programs. They all essentially do the same thing, which is help to cover the enrollment fees or the tuition for the school. And then we have, so I mentioned the Miracosta Promise briefly, but I want to take a moment to talk about it because it really is a great opportunity for students. If you are a first-time college student, and we don't count dual enrollment, so if you take classes while you're in high school, you're fine. But if you are a first-time college student and you go full-time, your first 2 years at Miracosta are completely free. All of your tuition and fees are waived, and you get a stipend for books each semester to help with those other costs. And that's really the only requirements other than being a resident of California and filling out your application, your financial aid application. Even though we make you fill out the financial aid application, there's no financial need requirement for this program. So whereas all the other programs I mentioned are need-based, you have to qualify based off of your financial aid application. This one, you don't. You could literally be Elon Musk and get 2 years of free college because we don't actually look at income for this program. So this is a really great opportunity to cut your college bill essentially in half, and then you can transfer onto the four-year university of your choice once you've completed your units at Miracosta. And so this kind of wraps up the financial aid portion. We're going to transition into scholarships, but it's important to stay in contact or to reach out to the financial aid office at whatever school you're going to be attending, especially if your financial situation has changed. So I know that most of you have 9th and 10th graders, so it's going to be, a year or two before you actually fill out the application. when you fill it out, what you're going to see is that you're reporting income information that's almost 2 years old, which is kind of strange. For example, for this school year, it's based off of income from 2019. We know a lot has changed since 2019. So if that's the case, you know, whether it's COVID related or just somebody lost their job, maybe there's a divorce or separation in the family, maybe there was somebody in the family passed away, whatever financially impacts the family's ability to pay for college, the school can make adjustments for. And we do this for students all the time. But it might not be something that parents or students are aware of when they're filling out the application. So just make sure to reach out to the financial aid office at the school. Sometimes you have to be persistent, but they can do these adjustments if your financial aid situation has changed. Okay, so we're going to talk about scholarships. So like I mentioned, scholarships are a great way to earn money along the way throughout high school. When your students are seniors, they can actually apply for Miracosta scholarships in the spring of their senior year for the incoming fall semester. And that's how it works at most colleges. Did you have something, Omar?
Addison, before you continue, there is a question in the chat.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Let me take a look real quick. Yes, so if you, the question is, if a student is currently enrolled as a concurrent enrollment or dual enrollment student, can they still benefit from the 2 free years of college? Yes, we do not count the classes that you're taking in high school as like your first time in college because you're still technically in high school. So if you take classes the summer prior to your first year of college or throughout high school, we're not going to count those against you. So yes, you can absolutely still participate in the program. Great question. And we have tons of students that end up doing that. And then so, like I mentioned, so when your student is a senior, not only do they want to start filling out their financial aid application, they're going to be filling out their college admissions applications, and they should also be applying for scholarships. So scholarships usually are offered like 9 months to a year in advance. So for example, right now, our scholarship is open for the fall. So you have to apply early to have an opportunity to get some of that money. And then some schools will have multiple rounds of scholarships throughout the year. So once your student kind of figures out where they're going or narrows it down to at least a couple schools, during like the winter and early spring of their senior year, they're going to want to start applying to all these scholarships. You can apply for scholarships at several schools. If you don't end up going to one of those schools, that's fine. They'll just give the money to somebody else. It's not going to be a negative impact. But if you don't apply, then you know that you're not even giving yourself a chance to take advantage of some of that money. And then also, we'll talk about how to look for outside scholarships in just a moment, but there's a lot of opportunities outside of colleges as well that have money that they want to give to students. So applying for scholarships is kind of like applying for colleges. You may start with multiple possibilities and then kind of narrow it down to a short list of choices. But here's just some tips to kind of get you started. Again, anytime you apply for financial aid, whether it's a scholarship or a grant or a loan, it's always free. You should never pay to apply for anything. The earlier you start to apply, the better. So I know that there are some scholarships that are still available for students while they're in high school. And you're going to want to reach out to your career center on your high school campus to kind of help navigate that process. As you get closer to to your senior year and closer to graduation, then that's when you want to start looking into the college scholarships that might be available for you. And in the meantime, if you are involved in anything in the community, that can be an opportunity for you as well. A lot of local clubs and organizations give scholarships, like Rotary clubs or Kiwanis clubs. Some employers will give scholarships. So Target, I think, gives scholarships to some of their employees. Sprouts does. So if your student is working somewhere, they might want to check with their employer to see if there's a scholarship opportunity there. And then once you've kind of gone through these tiers, I guess you could say, then you can kind of cast a little bit of a wider net and maybe do like the San Diego Foundation is a great one for scholarships. FastWeb is a kind of like a giant search engine, but it's a legitimate vetted search engine for scholarships. So those can be other opportunities as well. you want to make sure that you're using like a legitimate organization or database, and not just doing kind of like a random like Google internet search. And apply for as many as you're eligible for would be my advice. You might apply for 10 and you might only get one, but that 1 out of 10 could be an extra $500 in your pocket, right? Sometimes students, I think, overlook the smaller amount scholarships too, because, you know, like a $5,000 or a $10,000 scholarship sounds awesome. Sounds better than maybe a $250 scholarship. But if you're racking up all of the $250, $100, $500 over time, that can really add up and make a big difference. And what I've found with those smaller amounts is that you usually get less applicants than the big price tag ones, like the $10,000 ones. Those ones are going to have tons of applicants and be a lot more competitive than the ones that are in smaller amounts, because people might not think it's, you know, worth it to apply, but you can, there's no, you know, limit to the number of scholarships that you can apply for. So that would be one piece of advice. And then sometimes students might get discouraged, like, oh, I applied for a scholarship, but I didn't get it. And that's okay. You might get another one if you apply for another one. So once you do one application, you'll find that it's easier to do the next and the next and the next, and then it kind of just becomes second nature. And then just a few more tips to kind of keep you on track while you're in high school. If you do work now, or if you're able to start saving some money now, that's a great way to set some money aside. But reach out to the resources that you have available to you, like your GEARUP coordinators or the student ambassadors that are on campus. That's a great resource. You can kind of pick their brain, because a lot of them have either, you know, most of them attended they're attending Miracosta, they're student ambassadors. Omar said he was a previous student. So it's a great way to get some firsthand knowledge about what to expect, not only financial aid wise, but just in that overall transition from high school to college, right? Because that can be a big move. And then, you know, check out what financial aid opportunities are available. Like I said, senior year, we do, well, every year for seniors, we do presentations that go really into depth on how to fill out those applications. So attend those financial aid nights when they're available. And then just a few more resources. Again, should always be free to apply for financial aid. Make sure you're going to the .gov websites. And then I am going to pass this PowerPoint along to the GEARUP team so they can share, you know, the FAFSA and the California DREAM Act application have their helplines or their, you know, assistance available if you needed that. And then ICanAffordCollege.com is just kind of a good general resource. They will have scholarships listed in there. They'll also have like workshops and things like that for financial aid listed on there. So it's through the California Chancellor's Office. So it's just a good sort of resource website to be aware of. And then I'll leave this one up there for a minute. But again, the GEARUP team has our contact info. So if you have questions, either, you know, now or later down the line, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to have conversations with you, whether you're going to be, you know, attending Miracosta or not. You know, we can always help give you some guidance to help navigate through the financial aid process. I'm going to go ahead and just check the chat because I do see one more thing there. Oh, Julie. Thank you, Julie. Happy to be here. And so that kind of concludes the presentation portion. I want to make sure that we have time to answer anybody's, you know, questions. If they want to either unmute themselves or add it into the chat, I'm good either way.
Feel free to ask any questions that you may have on families with regards to the presentation.
Miracosta's a 2-year college, correct? Okay.
Yeah, so we offer certificates for vocational, we offer associate degrees, and we actually do have a bachelor's degree program in biomanufacturing. So there's actually quite a few community colleges now that are participating in the bachelor degree option. Okay. Each college offers one bachelor degree in a specific subject. So ours is biomanufacturing. I think Southwestern has something like biotechnology, but community colleges throughout California have bachelor's programs now. And it's at a significantly reduced cost. It's slightly over what you would pay for normal tuition at Miracosta.
Okay.
So if you have a STEM major in the family, they may be interested in that. But yeah, we are essentially a 2-year community college.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we have an amazing transfer center on campus that can help students kind of navigate to a 4-year that's appropriate for them or their major. Once they exit Miracosta, we have students that go, all over the CSU and UC and even to the private system.
But if opting to take the biomanufacturing 4-year degree, you're only covered for the first 2 for free.
So
Correct?
the Miracosta Promise, yes, would cover the first 2 years for free.
Okay.
And then the last 2 years would, you'd still be applying, for financial aid and then hopefully qualifying for financial aid to cover the last 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I did want to follow with some of the points that Allison had made with regards to the services, the attending the events. We collaborate greatly with our partners, which is Miracosta College, because the GEARUP grant is awarded to Miracosta to serve students in Oceanside Unified School District. So as the years go by, we're going to continue to do workshops, and what Addison had mentioned before, that senior year, in the last grant, it was an amazing collaboration. So they supported our students to fill out the FAFSA regardless of where they were applying to. So, they're a great partner. Also, with regards to scholarships, opportunities, workshop, community service opportunities, all that good stuff. Your child's Google Classroom through their class. So for example, the class of 2024, 2025 Google Classroom, counseling classroom, they have all those different information that you can access simply by having your child go to their Google classes, and you'll see their counseling class. So the Career Center will post information about all the different scholarships. So I know for Oceanside High School, they have a spreadsheet of all the different scholarships available to students. Same with El Camino High School. So all those resources are accessible to your children through the school. Same as dual enrollment. All the dual enrollment information is on there. Every semester they put on the enrollment the classes that are being offered. So the counseling department is the best resource to go to as to see what class they recommend out of the ones that are being offered through Miracosta College. So just putting that out there so you know that there's a lot of information out there, but it is accessible to your child to look at and see if they're interested in dual enrollment. Also, there is a summer program called GEARUP for College summer program, and that is also a college program where your child can attend. They apply, they attend. Hopefully this semester or this year it's in person, but it's a great program. They get the experience of going to college. So everything's paid for. They don't need to worry about anything. We usually have a bus for them. Hopefully it's in person. If not, it will be through Zoom. But they have a bus for the students. They get bused to the college. They go to a lecture. They have support inside the classroom. Then they have support after the class session. They get lunch. They have guest speakers, professional guest speakers, to talk about what they are offering, to talk about their experience, and then they have academic support. So there's many different resources available to your children with regards to learn about post-secondary and planning for college and getting those credits. So yeah, stay tuned for all of that. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them now. I did wanted to share really quick also with regards to GEARUP our services. Just give me 1 second. And again, thank you, Allison, for for your support today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yes, that Gear Up for Summer program is awesome. You will learn about all of the resources that Miracosta has to support students. And we have equity programs. We have programs like EOPS, free tutoring, writing centers. You get to, meet obviously, the faculty and things like that, learn about the different majors and the different career pathways that are available. So it's a great program if your student is able to participate in it.
Yes, it's an amazing program. We piloted it, and now it's institutionalized through Miracosta College. So it's every year. In addition to that, there's other programs, summer programs as well. Can you all see our Gear Up services slide? Okay, thank you. So this is just in addition to remind you of the services that we have through our Gear Up program at the high schools for our students. So we have academic support for our students, tutor.com. In the invites that we send out, you should have received the flyer as well, but it's a 24-hour service, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's similar to like a chat service, but they can also upload an essay if they want some feedback on an essay that they have to turn in for their classes, for their English classes. So the way that they can access this is through their portal. So as long as they log into their OUSD portal, they can see in their applications, they'll see tutor.com on there. So it's a great service, free. GEARUP is paying for this for our core students, so 9th and 10th. Also, college and career planning. We are working with the counseling departments to support our students with California Colleges.edu, which is a service, a platform that they can use to plan for post-secondary. And there are great resources through that platform as well to learn about post-secondary options. Again, workshops, we will continue to do workshops during the grant. Field trips, if any of you signed up for the safari park, we have that opportunity coming up February 26th. And in the near future, once the restrictions begin to come down, we hope to resume the field trips with our students and our families to universities. We have a GEARUP store. Students can buy GEARUP supplies, or they can also buy goodies from the supply store through earning GEARUP bucks. So we pay them with fake money to get them motivated to buy a snack or buy something like that for doing their work, for asking questions, all that stuff. Also, we have school supplies free school supplies for the students. If they need an extra, pencil, pen, we have paper, we have different supplies. Students can print from our classroom as well. So if they have an assignment that they need to turn in physically, they are more than welcome to come to us and say, hey, Mr. Omar, hey, Ms. Izzy, or one of our GEARUP staff, can you please print this for me? And we are more than welcome to do that for them. And we mentioned a little bit about the summer programs. In addition to that, every year we have an ambassador program. So a great way for the students to get some experience, some leadership experience, and they can also write that on their, scholarship applications, their first job. Hey, you know what? My experience is I've been a student, but yeah, I've been, in a program engaged and volunteering for the GEARUP program, and that is knowledge that they gain and is experience that they gain. In addition to that, I wanted to have on the screen our contact information, our classroom. If you are not aware yet where we're located at both campuses, we are at El Camino High School in D205 and at Oceanside High School in K29. We are open Monday through Friday, and we are open 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So we're available for the families. If you ever have any questions, feel free to call us. Our information is on here as well, and via our email address, if you would like. And then towards the bottom, we do have Alejandra Garcia, who is our adult services liaison. So that's someone that you can also contact. And she is a great resource for the families as well. Sometimes she's the one that's contacting you as well for like any trips that we have or workshops. So we are also available via our social media. So please follow us on social media. And if if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask. Thank you so much again for joining us. And thank you, Addison, again for a wonderful workshop.
I did want to just share real quick. I put a link in the chat for the financial aid estimator, which is on the studentaid.gov website. So it takes about 5 minutes to fill out. You just estimate your income and put in your household size and things like that. Excuse me. And it will give you an estimate of your financial aid eligibility. So you don't need necessarily your taxes with you. If you know about how much money you made for 2020, that's what you can put in there. And that can be a good tool to kind of start preparing and planning ahead. So I did put the link in the chat if anybody's interested in that.
Thank you, Addison. Any other questions? Thank you again for joining us in this workshop, and we hope to see you soon with another work. We'll be doing another workshop in March and one in April. So you'll get we'll send out flyers as well as reminders. We do also have a text messaging program, and that's how we send flyers as well to the families. So yeah, please stay tuned, and we will continue to provide as much service as possible to your students. And we are very passionate about this program, and it's very beneficial for the students, but we really gain a lot from being part of your child's journey. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you. It was very informative. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.